Hello there, I am Carol Crafty Grandma, and today is part 2 of our Veterans Day quilt. So yesterday we got the entire top pieced. All 5 branches, missing the 6th because Space Force didn't have any fabric. And I did think about it, and I don't have that on mute. Hold on just a moment. Thought I did. There we go. Don't know what was going on there. Sorry about that. Anyway, so talked about it yesterday. Space Force didn't have any fabric, but I do feel comfortable that at this point in time, they probably don't have any veterans. Something else is making noise. I apologize. Hold on. The TV was muted. What is making noise? Ah, found it. Okay, that takes care of that. Sorry about that. Knew there was something was making noise. That was just driving me crazy. All right, so again, Veterans Day, probably don't have any veterans. As we talked about yesterday, I am not happy with the fabric in the sense that the navy has a blue background and every other branch is gray. I'd be happier if they had a consistent pattern, but I get what I get. I did get another type of fabric. It's got dog tags on it, but they didn't have, not only didn't they have Space Force, but they didn't have the Coast Guard either. Excuse me. So I wanted to do as best I could with this, and like I said, I can go with the fact that maybe Space Force doesn't have any veterans yet, so we're good. Tree down the middle. A lot of the quilts that you look at like this are like a gray in the middle. In the middle, it's a post, and then they do like a rainbow color rotating around it. I did it more of a tree with the branches, but it's all half square triangles. There's nothing complicated at all about this quilt. It's literally what fabrics you use and how you lay them out. It did take some maneuvering to make sure that all of the words were right side up, because these all have words on them. All of the military fabric has words on them, so wanted to make sure they were all facing upright so that if you were reading it. This I see as a wall hanging. Conceivably, I could see it on a longer table for honoring a veterans for a meal, because it does have all of the branches on it. So I could see that also, but it being as long as it is, and I still want to add a border, so it's going to be longer. I would say this is not something you're normally going to see sitting on everyone's table. This is something you're going to see more along the lines of being hung on a wall. All right, so I still have to fix the top and the bottom. I don't like that. I don't like this, and I don't like this. So they're going in the garbage. Steve didn't like them either, so it wasn't just me. And then he went into my stash and found red background fabric. And he thinks this is going to look better. Boy, oh boy. So I have the 2 extra white pieces that we had from yesterday, or from part 1. I've still got plenty of tree fabric, so we can go there. And then I'm going to use this and cut 3 squares out and do 6 half squares. I'm still going to use this as my border. He agreed with me that this looks fine, so we're going to go with that for the border. And then this is still going to be my backing, and I'm going to use it as the binding. Thought about it, and with all of the other colors bouncing out, I still want the gray to be the predominant color. Sorry. Whew. So I am going to use this as my binding, which means when it's out here on the edge of the border, it's going to pull all that gray out. You're still going to see the I Love USA's all the way around it. And I will make sure when I'm on the top that it's upright like that, and when it's on the side, it's upright. I don't know where the salvage is on this, but we'll see that. So those are the things we're going to accomplish today. We're hopefully going to get this done. I'm back and forth on it, but I cannot go over 5 o'clock today because I do have other things that I need to do, so we can't go more than 4 hours. So probably wasting the last 5 minutes babbling for no good reason was a waste of my time. But I wanted y'all to know where we were. And if you didn't see part 1, I wanted you to understand where we were at for part 2. Because I know Facebook was being challenging yesterday. I checked and it is working today. So I welcome back all my Facebook subscribers, followers, viewers, whatever term you want to use. This is what, the second or third time we've had issues with Facebook. If you're having trouble with Facebook, switch on over to YouTube. I never have any problems over there. They just seem to work all the time. But hey, if you like Facebook, go with Facebook. That's why I do it the way I do, so you can view from anywhere. Okay, so this is my 6-inch square ruler and my 4x14 that I love to death, my favorite ruler, which I have to replace because it's getting cut up. But anyway, I digress. So these are the 2 rulers we're using most of the time until a little bit later on, because each and every one of these squares, except for this one, which was already done, we need to size down to 4.5 inches. If it hadn't been for the fact that I sized that one down to 4.5 inches, I could have left it all alone, because they're all basically the same size. And I cut them all originally to the same size. So even though they're started at 5 inches square, and they're not exactly 4.5 inches, like this one is, oh, let's turn it this way. Yeah, it's got about an extra 1/8 of an inch. But they're not squared up. So I'm going to square them all up, which is going to be tedious and time-consuming and boring for all of you. But we have to do it in order to make sure that our quilt gets done correctly. And there goes my fluorescents again. I forgot to mention that to him yesterday. They're probably starting to wear out. At least today we don't have rain. It does show partly cloudy on my lovely clock that has temperature and stuff on it. Then fortunately won't be doing any live videos tomorrow because I think we're going to have the windows open most of the day tomorrow. It looks like it's going to be a high of 76, so we can have the windows open until that point, because 72 is where I like it, so we'll have to see how that goes. But we wouldn't want to be trying to do these videos with all the windows all open, because that would just not be any fun. Oh, and we do have a cat hanging out. We have the big white fluffy one. She's hanging out in the windows. The little gray one was in here briefly, but she has left and found somewhere else to be, probably with Steve, so that he can love her and tell her how wonderful she is. But let's get started. I need 1 5-inch square of the tree. And as we learned on part 1, just because this fabric is solid doesn't necessarily mean that I don't have to pay attention to which way the leaf is, or the tree branches, or whatever they're called, sit. Because both of the pieces have a specific direction they need to lay in order to sit correctly on the quilt. Okay. Did I make it 5 inches? Yeah, we should be close. I cut it a little wonky. All right, let's go here first. Okay. Ah, rats. I did cut it too small. Alright, I can swing it though. Let's see here. Let's flatten it. Hey, big girl. You doing okay? She's got her eye on something. I don't know what it is, but she's got her eye on it. Alright, well that warms up a little bit. Oh, looks like I used this to cut something out of. And I need to make sure. One. Actually, I'm going to cut 2 pieces. That way I don't have to worry about it. All right, make sure we're not burning the fabric. Okay. Callie, I think Daddy's calling you. I think there's food downstairs if you're interested. You don't want any kitty food downstairs? All right. All right, so we're cutting the squares 5 inches wide so that when we do the half square triangles, we get them down to like 4 7/8, and then when we trim them down, that'll get them to 4 1/2, like we want them all to be. So I don't have a 5-inch wide ruler, so I'm using the double ruler thing. I take the second ruler, put it at 5 inches, make sure it's square, and then match up the second ruler, which is the longer one. Make sure everything's square. And now we have 5 inches. Now I can go back to this one. And trim it off. Make sure top and bottoms are even. And get rid of the selvage. And cut it down to 5 inches. And there was our little circular, half circle, whatever I used it for. And this one's got a nice sharp side that I cut already. Measure this to 5. There's 2. Match these up. And last but not least, one more 5-inch cut. There we go. All right, set that aside, close that up for now. All right, and I am using regular pens just because it doesn't matter. The seams that we're going to be using are going to be covered. You'll never see them. Okay, move coffee cup. Or that's not coffee, it's water. Did I do... There we go. I don't know where my brain was. I wasn't using that yesterday. All right. And I need my longer, well, not longer, but my favorite ruler again. Let's move this over here. Sorry. Oh. If it wasn't for the fact that I have the December month pillow next week, I would have taken today off. Sorry about that. Sniffles and coughs and all that good stuff. I'm going to be a blast at yoga tonight. Ugh. All right. Let's get this lined up. Now I'm drawing a line down the middle, point to point. And then I am going to add in a line at 1/4 of an inch because I want to be able to follow a line. We talked about this in part 1. This is not necessary at all. I am only doing this because I am trying to be as exact as I can, and I'm still messing up. I know I am. I've seen the squares. But I'm trying to do it as plainly as I can. Now, this square doesn't have to be any direction, specific direction, but this is where I messed up last time. When I fold this up, this square is going this way with the piece over there. And I think I did it wrong again. Let's see if I do it. No, I did the wrong way. This is not the direction it needs to go in. It needs to go down this way. So let's use different colored pens. All right, so down here, and I always start in the middle and draw to the tips, that way I'm not pulling the fabric at all. Okay, so let's look. Let me show you what's going on here. All right. This bottom square and this top square are the two pieces that are coming out of this half square. So the way I had it drawn, fabric was going to go like this. And you can see the colored piece is up and the angle goes that way. So colored piece, white or tree. You'll see now the branches are angled that way. I have now drawn the line here. So I replaced or switched where the line went. And now you can see colored piece, tree, up and down tree. And at the bottom, the other side, we'll go this way. We have the colored piece and the colored piece and the tree with the tree going up and down. So I almost did it the wrong way again, just like I did on part 1, but I caught myself on part 2 and didn't sew it and cut it, so I don't need to do another piece of fabric. So let's go over to the sewing machine and no, you know what? Let's not do that yet. Let's just get the other 2 pieces done. Why waste our time only doing one? We did yesterday, we were able to get all 3 done at a time, so let's do that. And now the white and the red by themselves, we don't care which direction they're facing because they're both solid fabrics. All right, so 45-degree angle on the ruler, tip to tip, not quite, let's get it fixed. There we go. Draw a line down the center. And then just because I'm in a mood, I'm drawing 1/4 inch lines for me to sew on. All right, and as I mentioned yesterday, there is a doohickey that can be done this way. Instead of drawing the line down the middle, it's a piece of plastic that's a 1/2 inch wide. It matches up point to point, and then you draw the outside lines just like I did here. I don't happen to own that doohickey. Actually, I think I do. I mentioned yesterday, or in part one, that I think I do. I just have no idea where it's at. I went through and I reorganized everything when I set this craft room back up about 6 months ago. And that's one of those items that I swear I saw somewhere, just not certain where I saw it, and it somehow didn't get put on the wall with all the other rulers. So I'm not certain what's going on there. All right. So give me a minute here. I am going to turn off the volume so I can blow my nose and you do not have to be subjected to it. Hold on. There we go. Hopefully that will take care of my issues and I won't have to sneeze or cough anymore. We'll see. All right. There we go. Got the microphone put back away. And here we go. So I'm going to need 2 pieces of starter fabric, one for each side, because we're going to go up one side and down the other, or down one side and up the other. Depends on which way you want to look at it. Okay. Get the fabric straight on the square straight, I should say. And we're going to need to set the machine to needle down position. And let's go. Now, straighten it out. Make sure we're straight. Okay, make sure we go on the red line. That's why I drew those in red also, so I wanted to make sure I didn't mess this one up. Okay. All right, down the red. There we go. Alrighty. No, there we go. Popped up on the screen differently, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not what I want. Okay. Go. We are trimmed, and now we will cut. And we are just going to cut down the line in the middle. So as I was cutting, something dawned on me. These squares, I have the other lines drawn on this side. And we're going to have to hope and pray that they don't show through the fabric. I think it's thick enough that it shouldn't be a problem, but I'm not 100% certain. So we're going to have to find out. Okay, let's press. And because we pressed to the military print on every other thing, I'm going to continue that by pressing to the red on this, which is where the military print would have gone if I was using military print. I just didn't want to give any one of the branches of the military any more love than the other ones. And again, since there are only 5 fabrics, if there had been 6, if they had Space Force, I would have used one of each of the 6 as a square on the top and the bottom. Well, 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, which would have given me 6. But we only have 5, so didn't work. The pen did not shine through. Yay! You're all the way over there, baby girl. You are perfectly safe. My kitty cat does not like the spray bottles. She doesn't like this, and she doesn't like this, which is water. Now, it's possible that after we first got her, we used a spray bottle to remind her not to get on the counter. I didn't think we did. I didn't think we ever had to, but we could have. And that would explain why she doesn't like it. But either way, if she's sitting in her box, which is what this is for her to sit in, and I spray, she doesn't like it at all. And usually if she does it well, if I do it while she's on the table, she will actually physically leave the whole room. She won't just leave the table and go over there and sit in her window seat. She'll actually leave the whole room and be like, nope, I don't like you anymore. It's okay, baby. It's not gonna hurt you. You're safe. I promise. Go back to sleep. Okay, now, which way was this pointed? This had the fabric pointed that way. Okay. I'm not as upset about it. Steve's right. His thing was that the red that I had was too bright, and all of this was more of a deeper, darker color. Because even the red that's in the Air Force is not a bright, or not Air Force, the Marines. It's not a bright red. It's a deep red, which is more along the lines of what this is. I missed a phone call. Oh, tragedy of life. What will I do? Go back to looking outside. I told you, not gonna hurt you. Excuse me. Okay, let's see here. Goes like that. Now, just to keep myself really, off my rocker. Nope, I'm wrong. I swore I had that same pattern in blue. I do have other blue, which is a nice deep blue. So if the red's too much, no, just stop. Let it be. Because of the fact that the navy has the blue background, it's got a lot of blue in it. Throwing in some red. I just have to talk myself into this. And that blue doesn't go with the blue that's going to be on the border, so I can't put it on. There we go. Talked my way through that. Otherwise, I was going to make things much more difficult, much more complicated than they need to be. Oh, by the way, we haven't, in my world, it hasn't been Halloween yet, so that's why my nails are still in Halloween fabric. Veterans Day. I forgot to tell my Veterans Day story. I meant to do it at the beginning of the show, or at this part, and I forgot. So, I have an aunt. I have more than one aunt, but I have an aunt whose birthday happens to be November 11th. It's okay, Callie. Sorry. It's okay. Didn't get you. And back when she was in school, they actually got the day off of school. They didn't have to go to school on that day. And when she was younger, she did not know that November 11th, I mean, she knew, but she didn't know. She got out of school for her birthday. She thought that was great every year. They got out of school for her birthday every year. She thought that was just wonderful. Now, she's since learned otherwise, but I always thought that was fun, a fun little story, that she got out of school for her birthday every year. All right. Yeah, we're going to go with that. Let's get this out of the way. I love this camera because it makes it so you guys can see things up close. I hate this camera because it always is in the way of the screen. There we go. Or of my design wall. Oh, I haven't done a design wall rave in a while. By the way, this, you don't need to buy a design wall. You can go to the dollar store and find yourself a placemat or a tablecloth that has the felt on the back of it, and just hang that up on your wall. If you don't want to take up wall space or you don't have wall space, the other thing you can do is you can get some PVC pipe, make it into a square, and somehow attach it. I don't know how you would attach it. That's all up to you. But that way it can be taken apart and put back together when you need it. So, design wall, you don't need to get a professional one. If I had known back when I bought it, I wouldn't have purchased it. I would have saved my money and just bought a, well, from what I hear, dollar stores aren't $1 anymore. Most of them have gone to $1.25 to $1.50 for their cheapest item. They've added a couple of quarters, I think is the way they're wording it. Hey, big girl, you leaving? But I'm sure it's still cheaper than buying the official quilted one, or one for quilting. All right, let's see, we go that way. Can we see it? Yeah, you can barely see it, but you can kind of see it. Water. All right, last spray. Well, for the time being. Okay, and like that. I definitely like the darker red. Definitely like the darker red. I'm going to step back over here so I can see it in person and not just on the monitor. Oh yeah, and from here, even though I'm thinking even though the camera is the exact same distance from it, I can see more clearly exactly how all the words come out. There's spots where I can figure out what it says. Tree isn't straight, which I think the only way I could have gotten the tree straight would have been to cut the long way and then cut each of the pieces and then made sure they were in the right order from top to bottom. Because right now, the tree doesn't match the tree. And there's going to be a seam in there anyway. So even if I had cut it the other way, I still think it wouldn't have worked. I think I still would have gotten the trees not to match up quite right. Because there would have been that extra 1/4 of an inch, well, 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch on each side. So I'm okay that I didn't do it that way. Now, let's bring you down here and start the fun and annoying part of this activity. Let's see here. Do I have you solid? I do. Okay. Over here. Over there. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner because I want to, oh, here. While I talk. I want to show you the effect a small amount of error can have on a quilt. So right now we know these are all about 1/8 of an inch or so bigger than we want them to be. Just because of the way we used 5 inches instead of 4 7/8, and so on and so forth. So I am going to start in the upper corner and work my way down, and I want you to see how far this bottom piece, which you can barely see, comes up by the time we're done. It should be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About 8 is 1 inch. 9, 10, 11 is 3/8 of an inch. So it should be almost 1 1/4 inches further up by the time we get to the bottom. And I'm trying to think, there's no real way for me to prove it to you, other than the fact that this square right now, you should be able, well, this is about 2 inches. So you can barely see my finger. So the bottom of this square right here should be just about where at the table line. Because I can't move this down at all, can I? I tried it yesterday, and it's not going to make it so you can see any better. Too far. So let's see, where's my finger? There's my finger. Too far in. Yeah, no. Let's see, ruler. Can you see the ruler? No. Where is the top of the table? Oh, it's just there. This square is going to be just about at the bottom of the table by the time we're done. And I go through all this, and then I am going to forget all about checking this at the end. I know I am. All right, here's my little ruler, or my square ruler, I should say. I am going to get a smaller that way. Nope, this way. There we go. This is not a 45, this is a 28 millimeter rotary cutter with my little 4-inch square, and nope, we're going this way. Let's move this over here a little bit so I am more centered. Alrighty, there we go. So this blade safety pulls back, and now it is unsafe. 4.5-inch ruler, 4.5 by 4.5. So this is the exact size we want the square to be. And there is our 45-degree angle line, which is where our seam is going to go. Okay, starting at the top. With this, you could conceivably get away with cutting 2 lines. Sorry, two. Yeah, you can't see me no matter where I go. There it is. 2 sides. Because right now, it's fairly even on the bottom. It's not completely even, and it doesn't make me very happy, so I'm going to go on all 4 sides, but there's one. We're going to be rotating our ruler so that we can make sure that we keep the seam straight. On that first cut, the most important thing is keeping that quarter or diagonal, the 45-degree angle diagonal line on the seam that you sewed. That was sewn. Now we have this edge. It's driving me crazy. All right, come on. Nope, too far. Oh, good golly, come on. Why have you decided you're top heavy all of a sudden? There we go. All right. Now we'll move you back a little bit. And you're still going to be top heavy. Now you're still going to be top. Oops. Okay. I feel a little less claustrophobic now. The way I had it, I had to be so close to the edge of the table, which I'm good with. So now we've got this side done and this side done. So in addition to our 45-degree angle, we want to keep the edges, side edge there and the side edge here, plus the 45-degree angle. We're not going to have much to cut off. And fourth cut. So now we've got 3 sides to match up, plus our 45-degree. And again, we're not looking at a lot of fabric. I believe we should end up like 1/8 of an inch on each square. So I'm going to put this back up and I'm going to line it up on the top with the top line so that I know it's in the same spot. Well, that's not going the right direction though. There we go. So it's at the same height we started with, so we can see how the height changes after we trim them all. Okay. So again, most important piece here is our seam on the 45-degree line. .45-degree line and the edge that's been trimmed already. Okay, and this one goes in this direction. trying to make sure it's on the line so I don't accidentally have it too messed up. Okay. So this is one of the times that having an exact ruler is kind of nice. In the other parts of this video, I've been cutting to 5 inches using a 6-inch ruler. And I have to say, being able to just line it all up straight and cut is very convenient without having to worry about what side is what. I want 4.5 inches. This is exactly 4.5 inches. And now, this is an example. You can see that this is not the right size because the seam does not go to the tip of the point. The point is on the white. So that's how you know that that side is not squared up correctly. And although there was just a little bit taken off, now the points go down to the tip. All right, and now this one goes like that. All right. What time are we at? We might not get this quilt done in 2 parts. We might have to do a 3rd part. All right. This is where it's going to start getting a little bit tricky, and it's going to take more effort because these pieces are dark. The fabric is dark. So making sure that you've got your yellow line or whatever color line your ruler company uses down the middle can be challenging. And it's getting warm in here. Let me turn on my fan. There we go. I don't think it's too loud. I don't think you can hear it through the microphone. You might have heard it when I was standing next to it and turned it on, but it's getting, and it's only 75 in here, so I'm not certain. Now the temperature clock says, or the weather clock says it's going to start raining, and it's clear as clear can be out there. So that doesn't make any sense at all. Move that out of the way. Maybe having that too close to me is making me warm. I don't know. All right. Oh, this one was already trimmed down. I'm like, there doesn't need to be anything here. No, this one was the one that I trimmed down to test. I forgot. Okay, so that one goes there. There we go. Let's see here. All right, last cut. This should be really tight. It doesn't look like we need much here. No, I don't know if I even need to cut anything. Yeah, there was fuzz. Yeah, it was barely anything. All right. Actually, I want to show you something. There we go. And you're going to barely be able to see it, but just with these 2 rows done, we haven't gone up all that much, but we cut off a little bit of each of those seams, and it is, yep, 1/4 of an inch. So this is in 1/4 of an inch from this edge, which you can't see very well because of all the white against white. But this is shifted up a little. There's a space between them now that there wasn't before, and those pieces are in 1/4 of an inch. Like I said, you don't need to trim these down, because when I started, I wasn't paying attention. Well, it was kind of something I developed, so on and so forth. I trimmed one of them down to 4.5 inches, and now I need to make sure they're all the same size. Had I not done that, had I not cut down the first one, I could have left all of these squares the size that they are now and sewn them up that way. You can do whatever you want when you make your own pattern. That's one of the advantages of doing your own pattern. Even though you're using, this is a design that I've seen all over the internet with multiple different colors and styles and options and all sorts of different things. This is my interpretation of that quilt design. So I'm not copying someone else's quilt. I'm reinventing a design that I've seen in other places. And this, as we talked about, turns out it could be done just with a charm pack. You are going to need some background or some standard fabrics in there that aren't necessarily from the charm pack. But so let's go back to cutting. All right. I don't know why my screen keeps doing something wonky, but hey, it's technology. That's what it does. Let's see here. Line it up. What do we? Yeah. All right. All right. Let's see here. There we go. All right. I did this one too. That one is exactly the right size. So apparently I did both of them that had the tree branches on, or tree trunks, tree trunk fabric. What's going on, Callie? You okay? You okay, baby? It's okay, sweetheart. Don't pet a white cat with a black shirt on. That's one of those do as I say, not as I do things. All right, let's line this up. All right, last one for this. And now we have another one. Now, if your ruler happens to have a 45 going both directions, you're golden. Mine, I have to keep turning because it only has a 45 degree going one direction. Okay. I'm gonna try. Little bit. Little bit. Okay, that goes this way. And now we go back to a tree. bunch of sirens. Are they coming into the neighborhood or are they going past? They're coming in. There's a fire truck. Orange County Fire Rescue. Oop, Orange County Fire Rescue ambulance. Anybody else? Nope. Sirens aren't on in the neighborhood though. I heard them out on the main road, but they weren't on in the neighborhood. I hope everybody's okay. Now there's lots of other cars coming down the road. I was thinking that maybe there were going to be more fire trucks, but no, just regular cars. They must have been sitting at the stoplight waiting to get into the neighborhood. This one's got a little bit more than most of the rest of them have. I don't know why, but it does. See, that's, oh. That's a pretty hefty chunk of fabric compared to what we've been seeing. That side's tiny. So this side's probably going to be tiny too. Must have just been the way I had the ruler laying. First couple sides had most of it. There we go. Alright, this goes this way. What did I determine? There were 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that'll be halfway. So we're going to look at it halfway down. You probably, with that little picture-in-picture, you can't really see the distance. I'll go out to the wider shot so you can see it all. After we get the next 6 squares trimmed down. That's not right. Okay. Let's bring it down here. Now I have to keep it that way because down in this corner I'm trying to keep the point where it needs to be, and that's where the fabric is, and there's not a ton of fabric on this side. So I really kind of, when I did the sewing, it came out a little wonky. Alright, so now this side is cut. I want to make sure that we're even down at the bottom. Okay. Now let's get those 2 sides. Plus our seam. Now here, this top part is in a little too far. It's exactly 4.5. All right, there we go. This is our fourth side. So we need to make sure all the other three are nice and square. Okay. Make sure we get it straight. Obviously, I can't always sew straight because not always do the lines match up. Matches on this side, but somewhere in the middle, it's not quite straight. I apparently make baubles as I sew. There. Okay, almost halfway done. What time is it? I still question whether we'll get this entire quilt done today or not, but we'll be close. Match up two sides, match up the center, the seam. Now we match up three sides and the 45-degree seam. All right, so I'm going to use my close-up camera here. I'm going to show you, this is what we've been taking off of the squares. Not that much, little bits and pieces. This is the widest one, and it's not even 1/4 of an inch, but it's almost 1/4 of an inch. It's almost 1/4 of an inch, but not quite. So most of these are small slices, maybe 1/8 of an inch or less. And this is what I talk about all the time when I talk about seams. This is actual fabric. This is sizes. When you cut something, if you don't cut it to the correct size, this is what you're going to need to do to get things fixed. Normally I talk about this in the sense of this is what happens when you don't sew your seams the right size. So here we go. These are the pieces that we have trimmed to 4.5 inches. These are the pieces that are still potentially 4 7/8. And look how much of a distance there is between those two. If you cut your fabric wrong, here's the edge. Yeah, there we go. There's the edge, and there's the edge of the trimmed fabric. So like I said, most of the time when I talk to you about this, I talk to you about it in the sense of making sure that your seams are sewn at 1/4 of an inch, because even 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch can cause an issue depending on how big your quilt is going to be. This is a very good example. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seams. If each of those seams were off by 1/8 of an inch, so let's say those were sewn together instead of cut, and you just a hair, just 1/8 of an inch. The distance you would cause to be here should be 5/8 of an inch, by the way, if you're 1/8 inch off on each seam. Here it's actually only 4/8, which is 1/2 an inch. So instead of being 5/8 off, it's 4/8 off, which is 1/2 an inch off. But you need to be cautious when you are doing larger quilts or pieces or quilts that have a lot of seams. There are miniature quilts. I can't get into them. The fabric cuts are just beyond my knowledge. I have another. Oh, it just slips right off. This is an 18 millimeter. So where's this version? Here it is. This is the one I normally use. This is the one you buy first. This is standard 45 millimeter. This is the one you're going to get first. This, don't tap on it because I don't have the safety on. There we go. This one is the one I'm using right now, which is a 28 millimeter. This one is even smaller. And so if you're making miniature quilts, you have to be even more cautious of your seams and ensuring that when you cut your fabric, it is cut to the correct size. If you cut it to even just a little bit off, your entire quilt can potentially be thrown off, and it can look totally different than you want it to. So, lecture over, back to cutting. Okay. Yeah, that works. I'm not going to touch it because it'll stop sitting correctly. I can move that over a little bit. You want to focus my silly little camera? There we go. All right. So the bottom here seems to be fairly good. I just need to get the sides. Oh, no, there is a little. It is a little bit off. And here comes, well, not the rain, but the wind has started, so the rain probably will be starting. So my clock knew better than I did, even though I looked outside and I didn't see anything coming. Yeah. I feel like my first side didn't get cut correctly, so we might be doing 5 cuts on this square. I could be wrong. Let's see. No, I did not cut it correctly. All right. There we go. feel that that ruler moved while I did that. Hopefully I didn't mess this entire square up. Okay. Alright, there's that one. I told you this would get boring. I knew this would get boring. It gets boring for me. But, as we discussed, if we don't do it, it's going to have not good effect on our finished quilt. Callie? No. Stay out of the knitting. No, I didn't trim that side quite right. I hate it when I do that. Maybe I did. Yeah, it's fine. Try one more time. Let's see. Square it up completely. Is there still, yeah, there's still just a little bit left here in the corner. Just a little bit. Okay, let's see here. Keep it square. All right, we're getting there. All right, let's see. Make sure it's lined up. There we go. Go. I haven't seen the fire truck leave yet, so they might have gone another way. So I messed up my other ruler. That's why I don't actually like these rotary cutters, this brand, because I tend to cut pieces off of my ruler, which is bad. That way. Doesn't shake that much because the camera and the table and what you're looking at are all at the same table. I was afraid that when I cut these, a lot of times this table will wiggle. But I looked up on the monitor and it looks like y'all can't really tell. Okay. Eight squares left. Whew. Sounds like a big truck out there. Can't see it. All right. I do believe in part one, I mentioned that there was one that was looking like it was really messed up. Well, I just found it. Let's see here. So I can square it up, but it's not going to be right on the seam. Is this the other piece? Nope, this one's fine. It's just this one square. I don't know why it's so far off. Now, I'm gonna square it up as a square, and if the seam's not gonna be quite right, we're gonna be okay, and we're gonna go with that. Let's see here. It's this corner down here that's our problem. I don't know if I shifted the fabric or what happened. But it's a square. It's just not symmetrical on the seam. You can tell here, there's my yellow line, and over here, that's where my seam is. So we're going to have this not quite go to the edge. Well, and by the time, actually it's on the side, you can't see now, you're too far out. It's on the side where the border's going, so we might be okay. We might not even notice it, because I was able to do the one on the inside corner to match up. We're to the solid red. We're almost done. There's still a couple more. No, just one more. Just one more. Military fabric. Match the two sides that are cut up. There we go. go. Oops. And this one goes this way. Now, this is the one that went with it because it's a little off it too. So we'll do the same thing where we make sure that the corner that's going to be on the inside of the quilt matches up, and the corner that's going to be on the border can be a little bit off. That way. All right, 2 more left. Is that right? No, that's not right. No, that's not right. Okay, camera. Let's move you out of the way for a little bit. And move my big butt out of the way. So this is our last square. And it has not moved since we started from the top and I worked our way down. And you can see the distance with the red now, since there's red fabric. You can see that there's a distance between those. And then look at the distance from up and down. I hate to harp on this. I don't mean to harp, but I want you to understand how serious it is if you get just a hair off. It can cause you issues later on, and I want you to know that so you can be prepared for it. If for some reason you get to the end and you're like, none of my squares match, why don't my squares match? I want you to know something like this could have happened. I don't want to say it's nothing you did wrong, because it is something you did. But it happens to everyone. So you want to be consistent. I also don't cut my borders until I'm done. Well, that's not necessarily true in the the pillow thing, I usually do end up cutting them early, just because I'm following the directions in the book. But most of the time, I do not cut my borders until I've got the inside area pieced. If I'm sashing, I don't cut my sashing until I have my blocks made. You want to be prepared for minor discrepancies, which can grow into bigger discrepancies. So you want to be prepared for it. You want to know it can happen. It's happened to all of us. It's not something you can predict, but that's why we measure a lot of these things as we go. I've had comments of, why do you have to make sure that every square is the same size? This is why. We can't guarantee that your quilt is going to be this complete unless you have things consistent. All right, last square. Camera back. That's too far. There we go. All right, last square. That was a lot of standing. Where are we at? All right, 3 o'clock. We're doing okay. There we go. All right, let's get this chunk of garbage off of my table. Camera out of the way. I shouldn't need this anymore. Should I need any of them? Yes, I'll need you and you to cut my borders. But all the rest of you that are sitting here hanging out can be put away. Let's see, little one. And that's a little one. All right, now water. Okay, we are reorganized. Yes, we are. So now the next thing we have to do is we have to put this whole thing together. That way we can determine what we need to do for the border. And I still haven't decided how wide I want the border to be. I want to find out what the distance is there. So how thick these are. And I think I'm going to double it for the border. I think. I haven't decided yet. Just haven't decided yet. Okay, let's do, there's 12 rows. I'm going to chain piece 6 together, 6 rows. And then I'm going to chain piece 6 rows. And then I'll sew them, and then I'll sew them. I think that makes the most sense. I've mentioned before, you don't want to get too many rows. Together at one time. So you don't want to do these two, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, because then you get one row to attach to the other 11, which makes things off balance, and it doesn't work well. So I think, actually, you know what I think I'll do? I'll just sew 2 and 2 and do sets of 2 and then go from there. That's an even better idea. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, set it next to the sewing machine. And then 1, 2, 3, set it next to the sewing machine. I could conceivably do 4. I'm going to go with 2 at a time. If I get the next 2 done and I decide that it's too boring, I might do 4 rows next, but there we go. Okay. Piece 1. Now let's get the fabric started. Piece 1, piece 2, fold over. And now all of your squares should be the exact same size, because we just spent all that time cutting them to the exact same size. Come back here. There we go. That's part 1, and now part 2. I should say that's blocks 1 and 2. Now we're going to go with block 3. Because each row is made up of 3 units. Okay, cut. Let's go to the iron. And now we have to remember that we are going to be matching up the top first row to the second row. So we need to put our seams going in opposite directions so that they can nest. And I'm looking at it, it doesn't make any difference because based on the way the directions that the seams are for the half square triangles, or for that, yeah, for the triangles, it's not going to make any difference. So I'm going to do the ones on the first row going into the center, or going that way. And this initial press, I'm pulling out a little bit as I'm doing it. I need to be careful because the center square has a triangle seam going that direction. And now I'm going to turn it over, and these seams I'm going to press now going that way. Again, now I've got a triangle full seam pressing going the same direction. So it's starting out fine. The middle square triangle, the seam is facing the other direction, so I have to be cautious not to flip it over going the wrong way. And this is my initial press. Just get it started. And now I'm going to flip it over on the right side so that they're on the right side, and make sure the seams are going the way I want them to. Do my more forceful press. It's not like I'm pushing down on it or anything like that, pressing hard. I'm letting it sit a little bit longer in the spot so that the heat really soaks into the fabric. And it gives me my nice sharp seams so that when I butt them up together, they're going to butt up real nice. They're going to butt up nicely. And now just to make sure they are very sharp. And now we go back to the sewing machine. Now here is where I typically will use pins. Oh, they're not here. They're over on my table. Hold on. There we go. Make sure my seams are butted up to each other. And they butt all the way down because they're going to go all the way down. And instead of putting the pin down here where I'm going to sew, I'm going to put the pin further down, and that way it'll keep everything straight as I'm sewing. And I'm going to do the same thing on this seam. Let the seam it's got this triangle down back here, and it's not wanting to stay well, so I am going to give it some added "you will stay where I tell you" by putting a clip on it. So I'm going to do down here also, because this is 2 triangle seams coming together. Now this one is too, but for some reason this side isn't giving me as much of a problem. I don't know why. All right, let's see here. Okay, now since I've using the clips, I do have to stop and get them out of the way. Make sure that my stiletto, if you don't have one of these, just use a chopstick. It works just as well. Alright. Now, I'll put the pins back because we don't need those anymore. And now we're going to press this. In this, it doesn't matter which direction we press it in because it's not going to be joined up to anything, so it doesn't make any difference. And our starch. Beautiful. Okay. Let's bring our little cameras over here. And go like that. And let's talk about this. So we have some pretty thick seams here. There was a seam there, one there, one there, and one there. So that's pretty thick. Sorry about that, flashing lights. But you'll notice that the tip of the triangle goes down into the point, and we've got the same thing going on here. But on the edges, can't see that one, and then that one, oops. And then up top, the points don't go to the edge of the fabric. That's because these sides are not finished yet. And if we pull out our little gauge, get it centered up, you'll see that the tip is 1/4 of an inch from the unfinished edge. That's the way it's supposed to be. That way, when you sew and finish this edge, when you sew this edge to the next edge seam down, the points are going to come right to the corner, like they're doing here. And now these are the trees that I was talking about earlier. They do not match up, and I'm okay with that. There would be times that I wouldn't be okay with that. Maybe if I was submitting this to a quilt competition, I would have tried to ensure that when they were sewn together, those trees looked like they were going straight down. I don't care so much. It's not something most people are going to notice, so I don't care. And now you'll see that it's definitely narrower because we've gotten rid of 1/2 inch there and 1/2 inch there. That's an inch. So this is an inch smaller than those 6 squares. Sorry, somebody was playing very loud music. All right. So I think we're going to get the top piece today, and I'm going to have to do a 1 or 2 hour show tomorrow where we do, so we're going to have to do a part 3. I have to see if can be tomorrow or if I have to wait. I'm not 100% certain what's on my calendar tomorrow, and this phone's not going to show me. So I will schedule the part 3 this afternoon so that you'll know when it's coming. Whether it could even be Friday for all I know. It depends on what's going on. I know Thursday morning I've got groceries delivered, but other than that, off the top of my head, I don't remember. Got yoga tonight. I feel like I don't have anything going on the next couple days that I have to be anywhere, but I'm just not certain. So I'm going to have to wait. And don't get me wrong, I'm fairly confident that the reason it's taking me so long is because I've been on a lot of rants on this particular project, and I don't know why, but for some reason, I just want to talk a lot during this project. Oops. So there's a seam under there. And I want to make sure it feeds in evenly. Remember, our squares should be absolutely identical. Mine are not, but they should be, because we cut them to the same size. I always have a problem. They still come out slightly off, which is why all my quilts are all slightly off, and I go on such a tear about seams width. Because mine are never right. So you have to take your time. And I want you all to have them come out nice for you. And you don't have to suffer through the problems that I have. My fabric twisted. Okay, so now we're going to press. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I'm going to make sure it's the top is on, the piece that's going to be on the top is on the top. I'm going to take it over, I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to press this piece that way, turn it over so that they're pressed in the opposite direction. With this hand, hold it out a little bit so you're holding it taut. Carefully make sure you don't press the angled seam in the middle going the other direction. And that gets them all started. That's your initial press. Turn it upside down. And now we're going to press the same direction, but it's going to make the seams go the other opposite of the ones on the first row. So we do the same thing. Hold this side out taut with your hand. Carefully not pressing the middle triangle to go the opposite direction, and then press your third one. Well, second seam, third unit, however you want to look at it. And get them all started. And they're not totally pressed at this point. They're just sort of there. Now make sure you press them, or make sure they're going the correct direction. holding everything taut. Do the first 3. And again, the second 3. Make sure your seams are going the correct way. Yes, and then starch. And I still pull them a little, even after I'll do the pulling a little bit, just to make sure everybody's nice and tight. There we go. Okay. To the sewing machine we go. Make sure your seam is all the way across, butted up against each other, and you've got your fabric straight. Looks like I didn't cut well because that square and that square, oh no, I guess they are the same. They're good. It's just my imagination. Okay, so we're starting straight, we're ending straight. Seams are nested. Everybody should be happy. Sorry, I'm just tired of cutting these individually. We're going to get them done and over with. Hopefully I'll have enough. If not, I have some extra fabric sitting here that I can use. All right, I'm tired of doing that. There we go. And then because we've got the 2 triangles coming together here, I want to make sure that they stay straight and feed at the same speed. So we're going to use my stiletto. Come on. sure our seam stays flat and straight. All right. And again, doesn't matter which way you press this. Either way is going to be fine. Oops. I tried to push one of the half square triangle seams the wrong way. That's not good. And again, you want to make sure your seams are taut. Or seam. There's not seams here. There's only the one. And we starch it. Everything stays nice and straight. Okay, so we have a second set of 6. We're looking good. We're looking good. Excellent. 1, 2, 3. Ow. 2, 3. Now let's do the third block, or put the third unit on units 1 and 2. we're getting there. Almost halfway done with these units. So I've said this before, and since I just thought of it. A lot of people, when they're talking about their quilt, they're talking about blocks. And they'll say that this has this many blocks or this many, whatever. When you start putting your quilt together, you may not be attaching squares to squares anymore. So they're not really blocks. They're not squares. They're units. Block isn't bad because it doesn't, but they're not squares. This is a square. This is also one unit. When you put these 6 units together, or 6 squares together, whichever way you want to look at it, you now have one unit. So this is unit A, B, and we'll have 6 of them going down. And then we're going to join those units together. So directions can sometimes get confusing when they say blocks, squares, units. It depends on what's going on as to what they mean. They should consistently use the word unit, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But they don't. Okay, so top. And the reason we're doing this consistently down is because that way they will join together. The seams on this top piece are going to this side over here, and the seams to this piece are going to this side, and now when we join those units together, they're going to be nested seams. So that's why we're doing them all the same as we go down. So top on the top with the back right with the wrong side up. Carefully press, well, holding taunt to get them somewhat pressed. Turn it over, press the same way, which is going to be the opposite way because we turned it over or turned it upside down, whatever. Yeah. Holding it taut with my left hand and not pressing the seam for the center square, center triangle, the opposite direction, making sure it stays pressed the way it was originally pressed. All right, turn everybody right side up. Make sure your seams are going the right way. And now, again, still making sure we're taut a little bit. We're going to give a little more heat, make the seams sharper. And now starch them. That was probably a little more starch than I needed, but still want to be a little taut so you can make sure those seams are sharp. Okay. Boop. Sewing machine. There we go. didn't want to feed through there quite straight, so. All right, let's see here. Let's go that way. Dang it. Don't. Half square triangles, this happens to me all the time. I'm pressing, and then I press the half square triangle the opposite direction, and it drives me crazy. Okay, we're almost done with unit number 3. And there are 6 of these, so we have 3 more to go. They look so much tinier when they're sewn together. I like it. Again, I'm still glad I did not go with a 6.5-inch square, because these are 4.5-inch squares. 6.5-inch squares would have been twice as, well, not twice as big, that would have been an 8. But you get what I'm saying. It would have been really big. And I do like the red. I like the red more and more as I'm going. It just gives it a little bit of color. Yeah, Steve did well. So, still having trouble with these seams, but like I said, I always do. Alright, make sure I do them the correct direction. We don't want these units put together incorrectly, because then I have to tear them apart, which is not a happy day for me. Come on. Alright, pressing time. There we go. Okay. Remember what we're doing. Top to the right, rotate to the right. Being careful not to press the triangle seams the wrong way, and holding taut with our left hand. Of course, if you're left-handed, this would all be reversed. I didn't even think about that. I'm going to do the exact same thing. It's just you're going to go that direction. Sorry, my front door opened. I don't know why. There is nothing going on out front. Oh, Steve's leaving. I don't know where he's going, but he's leaving. And he took the car. Hope I don't need the car for anything. Don't get me wrong, we have a second one. It just hangs out in the garage most of the time. I don't remember him telling me he had anywhere to go. That doesn't mean he didn't. I know we had a conversation about what was going on this evening, because there's a lot going on this evening. That's why I have to be done by 5. Okay. Last but not least, a little starch. That is not making me happy. It was butted in weird, and I don't understand why. So I starched it and held it out a little bit so that it's lined up. All right, time to put this unit together. All right, let's see here. Get that on there. Gets everything all lined up. And we can sew. Come on. All right, so it got caught on the seam. I don't know why, and I did have to pull the fabric a little bit. I always say don't pull or push your fabric, and I stand by that statement, but for some reason it got caught on something in that seam, so I did have to pull it. And I did it just a very slight amount of pressure, and I stopped immediately as soon as it became uncaught. Pressing our seams. And he's back. So it obviously wasn't anywhere too far that he had to drive. In fact, he couldn't have driven far at all. Maybe he went to get the mail. Nope, he's leaving again. Came home, now he's leaving again. I am fairly confident there's a small kitty cat standing around downstairs, very confused right now. because she doesn't like it when he leaves. And the fact that he left and returned and left again, really going to send her into a tither. All right, that's number 4. How are we looking? Not bad. I like it. Sorry, I'm just looking at the colors, and the color schemes and how it all flows together. All right. Let's get these. Come on. You should be really close to the same size. You can get together. There we are. Okay, they're the same. Alright, same thing. Repeat. Top goes on the top. Now this would get a little confusing if you're not using fabric that goes upright. I know which way is top and which way is bottom because the words tell me that. So I would be cautious if you do this with a fabric. If you're doing, like I said, if you're doing like the rainbow around the maypole thing, that could potentially get challenging to make sure that you've got the fabric, the top and the bottom of each of these units correct when you're pressing them anyway. And when you get them up there, you can plainly see whether they work or not. But when you're doing this pressing, you want to make sure you have your top and bottom distinguished. You know which one's top, which one's bottom. Come on. Seam didn't want to go that way. I had to convince it that it did want to go that way. A little starch. And press the starch. Remember, still a little taut until you get the starch on, because or until the starch dries, because you want to make sure that you have a nice sharp seams. Okay, back to the sewing machine we go. Okay. Come on. There we go. All right. There and there. Excellent. And we press. Now when you pull, tug, adjust, whatever, with the after you put on the starch, you don't want to yank and to completely distort things, but you can get them a little bit straighter. Because like I've got this corner edge over here that just does not want to sit right. So I had to tug just a bit to get it to sit square and straight. All right, last of these units. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3. Over to the machine. Okay, we are getting there. Okay, so last one we have to do where we do the pressing to the left and to the right, and well, it's actually always to the left. Unless you're left-handed, then it's always to the right, but yeah. Put some tension on it. Make sure you don't press the triangles to the opposite direction. Oh, he's back. I missed it. Unless the cats figured out how to open the front door, which I seriously hope they haven't. Well, the one doesn't like to go outside. She doesn't like to go anywhere. You could leave the door open and she will sit there and look outside and go, no, I'm not going. The other one's kind of nosy. She wants to know what's out there. All right, put the unit together. There we go. Yep. Oops. Well, that's nesting very nicely together without any effort whatsoever. And so is this one. Well, that's cool. All right. Those are lined up nicely. Okay, let's see how this last one came out. So this is the unit that had issues with the two edges, the corners not fitting quite right. That I had to cut funny. So I'm going to show you on the close-up camera how they came out. And I actually noticed something on the red side that's going to be the opposite problem. So this is a good example. Ooh. All right. Bring you up. There we go. And all right. Here we go. So here are the corners that I had problems with. Remember, this didn't go to the corner. It was a little like a hair off. So this is my 1/4 inch seam. That's where I'm going to join my border. And what's going to happen is this point is going to go, this point here is going to go to the border. This point is going to be 1/8 of an inch off the border. So that point is not going to match up. And as I'm noticing now down here, we should be, yeah, we're good. We're 1/4 of an inch. So we should be fine there. Over here, it's a little less than 1/4 of, oh, you can't see that. So it looks like it's a little bit less. So that point is going to be a little flat. And that's going to be the exact same thing over here. See how with the 1/4 inch it looks a little flat? It's going to look flat. Alright, so now we've got all 6 units done. And this square is now finally above the table line, so you can see the whole thing from top to bottom. I do like the red. I do wish that this had a red background. The Marine Corps had the red, like the Navy has the blue background. I wish the Marine Corps had a red background. I think that would have made this even nicer looking. Sadly, I didn't design the fabric myself, so I can't make that decision. You can design fabric yourself, by the way. The only one I've ever used is a spoonflower.com, and they now sell a ton of stuff. I started using them. The first time I had something designed was, oh golly, probably 12, 13 years ago. And it came out really nice, but nowadays they always offered the ability for them to buy the rights to your fabric or something like that. But I've got a shower curtain and floor rugs. You know, if you have wet feet, you stand on the rug instead of the tile. That are some pattern that somebody designed from Spoonflower, and I love them. So, FYI. All right. I don't know what happened to half of they're over there with my purse. So I'm going to put together 2 at a time. These 2. And then these 2. And then these 2. And this is where I always get scared that I'm going to put things in the wrong order. And he's leaving again. I have no idea. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I know what's going on tonight, but let's see. Let's get these put together. So now I need to make sure that my seams are nice and nested. And these things have lots of bumps in them because they've got a quarter, the triangle there, the seam there, the triangle there. Triangle, seam, lots and lots of bulk. Okay. It's definitely going to take some patience, which I don't always have. One. That's the first two. Let's do the next two. And our third block or set or pair or unit or whatever we want to call it. Now this one has that seam problem on this seam down at the bottom there. That's going to be the challenge. All right. Okay, now, since the next seams will not be crossing any other seams, I am going to do them without weighting and pressing. Okay, let's see here. That's 1. This is 2. And this is 3. So that goes on last. This goes up here. Let's look. That's 1. Okay. That goes that way. And that goes there. So this goes that way. I'm always afraid I'm going to do this wrong, so keep our fingers crossed. That stays as it is. Alright, so now, for the first time, and I don't know how this happened, but we have a bubble. And it's this fabric, this side, that is wider than that side. So this has to be on the bottom so that it can feed through and get caught up correctly. All right. So I'm going to make sure this seam is nested correctly. Okay, and now what I need to do, I'm going to keep this seam pinned so it's nice and tight. It's nested the way it's supposed to be. And it's all straight and square. And you can see we still have some extra fabric on the bottom. The top is straight. The bottom is a little loose. So we make sure everything is square and straight, and we hold the fabric. See how I pull, I don't know, nope, you can't quite see because of my arm. So I pull out a little bit, and now the fabric is both even. Both pieces of fabric are even. So now this arm's going to go around, and I'm going to hold it taut. And sew across. Here's the catch part. Got to make sure we keep those seams nested. And now we don't have to worry about it. Everything's going to be straight from here. Okay, and I need one more piece of starter fabric. Okay, so that's the top. And now I need this to go with that. Again, matching up seams, nesting our seams together. And we don't have any issues with this one. All right, let's see. Make sure everything's square and straight. Alrighty. Alright, that and that. Let's see, okay, there's that. Oh, okay. And we're good. Okay, let's press our seams. Go. All right, there's one. Okay. All right, let's see. Here's two. I don't think I actually hit the seam with that one. Let's go this way. Okay, and the last seam to press is right smack dab in the middle. All right, here we go. Ooh, knocked over my water bottle. And there we go. We have our tree with our branches of the military on it. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to put the border on. Again, I haven't decided on the border distance. These are 2 3/4 inches wide. 2 3/4 inches wide. That's how wide these strips are. So a 4-inch border I think would be a bit much. 2 3/4 inches. I'll have to think about it. But so we are going to have to do a part 3, and I don't think it's just because I talked too much. I think it just turned out that way. Will not be posting tonight when it will be. I will have to post it tomorrow morning. And I'm not 100% certain. I honestly cannot remember. I feel like there's something I have going on tomorrow, but I just don't remember what it is. We will get that. I will get that posted tomorrow when we will be doing part 3. It will be this week because next week we have the December pillow cover to do. So we need to get this done and taken care of before I move on to the next project. So thank you all for watching. I will see you for part 3, and we will get the Veterans Day quilt all taken care of. Have a great day.